My neighbor's kid fell from the 12th floor and landed on my awning. I held onto her for dear life, a full 40 minutes, and didn't let go until the firefighters finally got her to safety. But afterwards, her parents demanded I pay compensation because the little girl's arm was dislocated. The doctor said the ligament and joint capsule are severely damaged, they told me. It'll probably keep dislocating over and over again. This is your fault. Why are you trying to dodge responsibility? During our argument, they accidentally pushed me off the balcony. The girl survived her fall, but I didn't. Then I found myself back on the day of the rescue. Despite being a total homebody, I'd been out all day. My phone kept buzzing on the table, the screen flashing with the contact labeled 1201 Karen. Once, twice, 3 times. I sat in the corner cafe, lazily stirring my latte with no intention of answering. I knew exactly why she was calling, and I knew she must be freaking out right now. Having just been reborn a short while ago, I remembered my previous life all too clearly. On that same afternoon, I'd been napping at home when a piercing scream jolted me awake, followed by the sickening thud of something heavy falling. I rushed to the balcony and saw my neighbor Karen's 5-year-old daughter Tina clinging to the edge of my protruding steel awning. Half her body was dangling in midair, about to fall at any second. Without thinking twice, without even putting my shoes on properly, I climbed barefoot over my balcony's security bars, stepped onto the narrow awning, and desperately grabbed Tina's hand. The girl's body was heavier than I'd imagined, and the force of her fall wrenched my entire shoulder as if it were being torn apart. "Don't be afraid, Tina, I've got you," I kept saying, mustering every ounce of strength to try pulling her up. For someone as slight as me, hauling a child weighing dozens of pounds back from the brink of a 12-story fall is nearly impossible. I could only hold my position, gritting my teeth as I felt the muscles in my arms tearing fiber by fiber, my bones groaning under unbearable strain. Time seemed to stretch into eternity. The crowd of onlookers below kept growing, their gasps, frantic chatter, and shouts to call 911 all blended together like a pot of boiling water. 10 minutes later, Karen finally realized something was wrong. She leaned out of her upstairs window, crying and begging me to hold on. "Miss Lancy, please, I'm begging you. You have to hold on to my Tina. I'm coming right now. Whatever you do, don't let go." Her voice sounded so sincere, so desperate. I believed it. I thought I was saving a family's hope. I stared at Tina's little face, twisted with fear, as sweat and tears blurred my vision. "Auntie, my hand hurts," Tina said through her tears. "Just hold on a little longer," I reassured her in a hoarse voice. "The firefighters are almost here." I was trying to reassure myself too. My arms had long gone numb, held up only by sheer willpower. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. My mind went blank, my vision started to darken, and all I could hear was my own ragged breathing and the frantic pounding of my heart. Each breath felt like it could be my last. Just as I reached my absolute limit, a firefighter finally leaned out of my window. Several strong hands reached up to take Tina. The child was saved. My whole body went limp, and I practically rolled off the awning back onto my balcony. A full 40 minutes, my right arm hung limp and useless like a broken branch, without even the strength to lift a finger. My neighbor Karen, holding her daughter who was safe and sound, thanked me over and over. I thought that was the end of it. I'd done a good deed. It was exhausting, but worth it. But I never imagined this was only the beginning of a nightmare. The next day, Karen and her husband showed up at my door with the hospital's diagnosis. They weren't there to thank me, they were there to blame me. "Lancy, look what you've done." Karen slammed her daughter's medical report in my face. The doctor said Tina has severe damage to the ligaments and joint capsule in her arm, which has caused recurring dislocation. From now on, even the slightest strain could make her shoulder cop right out. I was stunned. "This happened during the rescue," I protested. "You're the one who did this to her." Karen's husband pointed his finger in my face, his expression twisted with rage. "We asked Tina. She said you squeezed her hand so hard it really hurt. You're an adult. Couldn't you have been gentler when rescuing a child? Did you have to use so much force? Did you do it on purpose?" I could hardly believe my ears. I'd risked my life to save that child. And now her parents were blaming me because she got unavoidably hurt during the rescue. I was almost out of strength. I was lucky just to grab hold of her. How could I possibly control my grip? If it were you, Could you have done any better in that situation? How are we supposed to know you didn't do it on purpose? Karen lashed out with wild accusations. For all we know, you're just jealous we have a child. The argument escalated. They demanded I compensate Tina for all her medical bills, nutritional costs, and emotional distress, totaling $200,000. I refuse, I said. It was your wife who wasn't watching the child. That's why she fell from upstairs. I saved her. I didn't harm her. Instead of thanking me, you're trying to shake me down. What kind of sense does that make? My words completely enraged them. How dare you shift the blame? Karen's husband roared. The argument escalated, and they began shoving and cursing at me. In the chaos, I was accidentally pushed from the same spot on the balcony. Then came the dizzying sensation of weightlessness. The wind howled in my ears, and the shouts of pedestrians below grew distant and muffled. I plummeted from the sixth-floor balcony like a kite with its string cut. In my final moment of consciousness, only one thought filled my mind. How absurd. The girl who fell from the 12th floor survived, yet I, the good Samaritan who saved her, was pushed from the 6th floor and killed. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day the tragedy unfolded. The sun was shining brightly outside, and the clock read noon. As a certified homebody, I did something completely out of character. I got dressed, put on a little makeup, and stepped out the door. I went shopping, caught a movie, had afternoon tea, all the things I'd normally never do. I wanted to get as far away from home as possible. I wanted to make sure no one could find me. The phone rang again, stubborn and insistent. This time it was an unknown number. Probably the fire department or the local police station. I still didn't answer. Some parents deserve to face the consequences of their own negligence and stupidity. I'm done being the good guy in this life. This time I'm living for myself. I finished the last sip of my coffee at my leisure. It was about time. I tapped on an inconspicuous app on my phone, one I'd installed just a few days earlier, linked to the smart doorbell camera at my front door. A clear surveillance feed popped up immediately. A group of people stood at my front door, Karen looking extremely anxious, several neighbors who'd heard the commotion, and a few firefighters in uniform with serious expressions. The fire captain was explaining the situation to Karen. Ma'am, here's the situation. The child has fallen onto the 6th floor awning. We've observed it from below. And if we rush to rescue her now, we'll need the residents' cooperation to access the balcony. But we've been knocking for 10 minutes with no response. Do you have the resident's phone number? We need her to come back immediately. I've called her dozens of times. Karen was on the verge of tears. She's not answering. I don't know where she went. Can't you just break the door down? The fire captain shook his head. Without the residents' consent, we can't damage private property. It's against regulations. And even if we broke in, there are 3 security doors. By the time we get through, it might be too late. Then, what do we do? Karen was sobbing. My daughter is still hanging out there. She could fall any second. I watched the surveillance feed on my phone screen, my expression calm. In my past life, I'd rushed home at this exact moment. I'd climbed out onto that awning and held onto Tina with all my strength. But this time, I wasn't going to be that fool again. I ordered another latte and continued watching the live feed. Karen's cries grew more hysterical, the neighbors' discussions more anxious, and the fire captain's expression more grave. Time ticked by, minute by minute. Finally, the fire captain made a decision. We can't wait any longer. We'll have to rescue from outside. Prepare the ladder truck immediately. But Zenfield Community is an older complex with narrow alleys and cars parked haphazardly everywhere. The ladder truck got stuck at the entrance and couldn't get through. Precious minutes slipped away. I saw Karen completely break down on the surveillance feed. She collapsed to her knees, slapping herself over and over. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have left Tina alone on the balcony. I shouldn't have put her in that baby walker. A neighbor gasped. You left a 5-year-old alone on the balcony in a baby walker? Another neighbor chimed in. No wonder this happened. Karen, you're always blocking the hallway with your junk. Now even the ladder truck can't get through. Listening to their accusations, Karen's face turned ashen. But she still clung to her last shred of hope, frantically dialing my number over and over. I watched my phone ring, showing her name, and calmly declined each call. About half an hour passed. On the surveillance feed, I saw the firefighters finally manage to get the ladder truck partway in, and were attempting a rescue from the side. But it was too late. Tina's little hands couldn't hold on any longer. She let go and fell. The onlookers below screamed. Karen fainted on the spot. I turned off my phone and slowly sipped my coffee. I felt no guilt whatsoever. After all, I wasn't Tina's mother. I wasn't the one who left a 5-year-old alone on a 12th floor balcony in a baby walker. I wasn't the one who cluttered the hallways with junk, blocking the fire escape route. Karen made all those choices. Now she had to face the consequences. Several days later, I finally returned home. The entire community was still buzzing with talk of the tragedy. Tina hadn't died on impact. She'd landed on a 3rd-floor air conditioning unit, which broke her fall slightly. But she was severely injured, paralyzed from the waist down, and would spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. This outcome was actually worse than death for a 5-year-old child. She'd never run, jump, or play like other kids. She'd live the rest of her life dependent on others' care. Karen aged 10 years overnight. Her hair turned half gray, and she lost an alarming amount of weight. Every day she sat in the hospital, staring blankly at her daughter in the bed. Sometimes crying, sometimes laughing, she seemed to have lost her mind. I thought I could finally have some peace. But I was wrong. A week later, Karen came to my door. She'd clearly put effort into her appearance. Her hair was neatly combed, her clothes clean, though her face was still haggard beyond recognition. She stood at my door holding a fruit basket, forcing an ugly smile. "Lancy, can I come in and talk?" Her voice was hoarse, her eyes bloodshot. I didn't refuse. I opened the door and let her in. She sat on my sofa, first apologizing profusely. "Lancy, I know I was wrong before. I shouldn't have left Tina alone on the balcony. I shouldn't have piled up so much stuff in the hallway. This is all my fault." I didn't respond, just watched her coldly. She continued, "But Lancy, Tina is still so young. She can't live like this forever. The doctor said she needs extensive rehabilitation treatment, which costs a lot of money. Our family really can't afford it." I suddenly understood why she'd come. Sure enough, her next words confirmed my suspicion. "Lancy, I know you're a good person. Last time my husband and I were out of line. But could you help us out? Lend us some money? I promise we'll pay you back." I almost laughed out loud. She was shameless beyond belief. She'd come to borrow money from me? "Karen," I said calmly, "your daughter's injury has nothing to do with me. In my previous life, I risked my life to save her. And what did I get? You accused me, demanded compensation, and ultimately pushed me to my death. In this life, I've learned my lesson. I won't be played for a fool again." Karen was stunned. What previous life? Lancy, what are you talking about?" I smiled slightly. "Nothing. I'm just saying I won't lend you money. You should go." Karen's face instantly darkened. The humble, pleading expression vanished, replaced by viciousness. "Lancy, you have no conscience. If you'd come back earlier that day, my daughter wouldn't have ended up like this. This is your fault." "My fault?" I sneered. "Karen, stop trying to shift blame. Your daughter fell because of your negligence. The rescue failed because your junk blocked the fire escape. None of this has anything to do with me." "You?" Karen was shaking with rage. She wanted to say more, but I'd already walked to the door and opened it. "Please leave. Don't make me call the police." Karen shot me a venomous look and stormed out. A few days later, I heard that Karen was going around the community bad-mouthing me, saying I was cold-blooded and heartless, that I'd deliberately not come home that day, deliberately letting Tina fall. Some neighbors who didn't know the truth actually believed her and started giving me judgmental looks. But I didn't care. I knew the truth, and that was enough. Time passed, day by day. Tina's medical bills piled up like a mountain. Karen and her husband sold their apartment to pay for treatment, then moved to a cramped rental. But even that wasn't enough. They ended up deeply in debt. Their marriage couldn't withstand the pressure. Karen's husband David started blaming her. "If you'd been watching Tina properly, none of this would have happened. If you hadn't blocked the hallway with your junk, the ladder truck could have gotten through. This is all your fault." Karen couldn't accept this. She insisted on blaming me. "It's all because of Lancy. If she'd come back earlier, Tina would have been fine." She became increasingly obsessed, coming to my door every few days to cause a scene. Sometimes she'd cry and beg, sometimes she'd curse and threaten. I called the police several times, and she was warned repeatedly, but she never gave up. One day, I ran into her in the hallway. She was pushing Tina in a wheelchair. The once lively little girl now sat there dull-eyed and listless. Seeing me, Karen's eyes immediately filled with hatred. "Lancy, she said through gritted teeth. My daughter is like this because of you. You'll get your karma. I looked at her calmly. Karen, your daughter is like this because of you. You're the one who left her alone on the balcony. You're the one who put her in a baby walker. You're the one who blocked the hallway with junk. Everything that happened was a consequence of your choices. Shut up, Karen suddenly screamed. You don't understand anything. You're not a mother. You don't know what it's like. You're right. I'm not a mother, I said coolly. But even I know you don't leave a 5-year-old alone on a 12th floor balcony. Karen lunged at me like a mad woman. I was prepared and quickly dodged. She lost her balance and fell hard to the ground. Tina, in the wheelchair, was terrified and started crying. Neighbors heard the commotion and came out to look. Someone helped Karen up. She sat on the ground, crying and hurling curses at me. You all saw it. Lancey pushed me. She's trying to kill me. The neighbors who'd seen what actually happened spoke up. Karen, we all saw. Lancey didn't touch you. You rushed at her and fell on your own. We really can't stand to watch anymore. Your daughter's accident had nothing to do with Lancey. Stop making trouble for her. Karen was stunned. She looked around at the neighbors' reproachful faces, and suddenly something inside her seemed to snap. She started crying hysterically, grabbing her hair and hitting her own head. It's all my fault. I killed my own daughter. I deserve to die. In that moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But I knew she wasn't truly repentant. She was just breaking down because she couldn't accept reality. She was looking for someone to blame, a scapegoat. I just refused to be that person anymore. Later, I heard Karen had a mental breakdown and was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. David took full custody of Tina. He quit his job to care for his daughter full-time, and the family fell into even more dire straits. Sometimes I'd think, if Karen had just admitted her mistake from the beginning, if she'd taken responsibility and focused on caring for her daughter instead of obsessing over shifting blame, maybe things wouldn't have gotten this bad. But she chose a different path, and this was the price she paid. As for me, my life gradually returned to normal. I still lived in the same apartment, still went to my corner cafe for coffee. But I was no longer that soft-hearted fool who'd risk everything for others. I learned to protect myself, learned to refuse, learned to let others bear the consequences of their own actions. I was living for myself now, and that felt pretty damn good. Several months passed. One day, I heard Karen had been released from the psychiatric hospital. I thought she might come looking for trouble again, so I installed a smart lock and reinforced my security door. I was ready for anything. But to my surprise, she didn't come to my door. Instead, I heard she'd become obsessed with finding me. She'd stake out my building every day, waiting to talk to me. I wasn't scared. I'd already notified the property management and police about her harassment. If she dared make a move, I had plenty of evidence to protect myself. One evening, I came home from the supermarket to find her waiting by my building entrance. She looked even more haggard than before. Her hair was a mess, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes sunken and dull. Seeing me, she immediately rushed over. But this time, she didn't curse or make demands. She just knelt down with a thud. Lancey, I'm begging you, she said, her voice hoarse. I know I was wrong. I know everything was my fault. But please, for Tina's sake, help us. She's still so young. She can't live like this forever. I looked down at her coldly. Karen, I've told you before, your daughter's situation has nothing to do with me. I won't help you. I know you hate me, she said, sobbing. I know I did terrible things to you. But Tina is innocent. She's just a child. Please, if you have any compassion at all, help her. I sighed. Karen, if you really love your daughter, you should be spending time with her right now, not wasting your energy on me. I'm not the solution to your problems. You are, she suddenly screamed. In my last life you saved her. You held her for 40 minutes. Why won't you save her this time? Why? I was shocked. She actually remembered her past life too? Seeing my expression, Karen laughed maniacally. You think you're the only one who was reborn? I remember too. I remember everything. In my last life you saved Tina, but I still blamed you. I demanded compensation. My husband pushed you off the balcony and you died. I remember it all. She grabbed my legs, her voice becoming increasingly frantic. I know I was wrong. I know I was terrible to you in my last life. But that's exactly why you should save Tina this time. Make up for my mistakes, please. I roughly shook her off. Karen, you've got it all wrong. In my last life, I saved your daughter, and what did I get? Blame, extortion, and death. Why would I make the same mistake again? Your daughter's current state is the consequence of your negligence. You should bear that responsibility, not me. No, no! Karen crawled toward me again. You can't be this cruel. You're a good person. You saved her before. I was a good person, I said coldly. And that's exactly why I died. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to be a fool twice. Karen stared at me in disbelief. Then, something seemed to break inside her. She started laughing wildly, the sound manic and eerie. Fine. Fine. If you won't save her, then we'll all die together. Before I could react, she pulled out a knife from her pocket and lunged at me. I screamed and tried to dodge, but she was too fast. The blade slashed across my thigh, and searing pain shot through me. Help! Someone help! I yelled. Neighbors heard the commotion and rushed out. Several men wrestled Karen to the ground and restrained her. You all deserve to die, Karen kept screaming. You all watched my daughter fall. None of you are innocent. The police arrived quickly. Looking at my bleeding leg, they called an ambulance immediately. Karen was arrested on the spot for attempted murder. Lying in the hospital bed, I reflected on everything that had happened. If I hadn't been reborn, I would have died in my last life, at the hands of this madwoman and her husband. But even being reborn didn't mean I was safe. She'd still tried to kill me. Fortunately, I'd been prepared. Fortunately, I'd refused to be a fool again. A few days later, the police came to take my statement. They told me Karen had a complete mental breakdown after her arrest and had been transferred to a psychiatric facility. With both the injury evidence and witness testimony, plus her history of harassment, she'd likely face serious charges, even accounting for her mental state. Miss Lancy, the officer said, you've been through a lot. If she bothers you again, call us immediately. I nodded. Thank you, officer. After the police left, I sat alone in my hospital room, staring out at the cloudy sky. In my last life, I'd held on to Tina for 40 minutes, risked my life to save her. And what did I get? Ungrateful parents, unreasonable demands, and ultimately, death. This time, I chose to protect myself. I chose to let them face the consequences of their own actions. Was I wrong? No, I wasn't wrong. Everyone has to take responsibility for their own choices. Karen chose to leave her child alone on the balcony. She chose to block the hallway with junk. She chose to blame others instead of facing her own mistakes. These were all her choices, and she had to bear the consequences. As for me, I just chose not to be a victim anymore. My leg injury healed slowly. During my hospital stay, I heard more about what happened to Karen's family. David couldn't handle caring for Tina alone anymore, and it sent her to a care facility. He'd found a new job, trying to dig himself out of the mountain of debt. He never visited Karen at the psychiatric hospital. Their marriage was over in all but name. Tina, that poor child, became the biggest victim of her parents' mistakes. She'd spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair, dependent on others' care, never experiencing the carefree joy of childhood. But that had nothing to do with me. I'd already paid my debt in my last life, with my own life. I wasn't going to pay again. After being discharged, I moved. I couldn't stay in that apartment anymore. It held too many bad memories. I found a nice place in a different neighborhood, a quiet community with good security and friendly neighbors. I started over. I made new friends, pursued new hobbies, lived the life I wanted. I was no longer that people pleaser who'd sacrifice everything for others' approval. I learned to say no, learned to set boundaries, learned to put myself first. And you know what? Life got better. One winter day, the first snow fell. I stood on my new balcony, watching snowflakes drift down from the sky, covering the world in white. A profound sense of peace settled in my heart. In my last life, it was from a balcony that they pushed me to my death. But in this life, I stood on my balcony, watching my enemies march toward their own ruin, one by one. I reached up and breathed warm air onto the icy window pane. A patch of white mist bloomed across the glass. With my finger, I slowly traced out a line of words. Mercy cannot save those who refuse to save themselves. The mist faded quickly, and with it, those words vanished without a trace. Just like those people and those events, they were finally all in the past. Outside the window, the snow fell harder and harder. I knew a new, pristine tomorrow was waiting for me. This time, I was going to live it on my own terms.